You're the best in your field. You've been at it a long time, be it as a coach, as a service professional, maybe you're in real estate, maybe you're in the mortgage industry, maybe you have an agency. Ultimately, you're selling an intangible. You're not shipping a box, and you help people. Yet why has your income seemed to plateau? And how, after all this time, do you give yourself a raise? This is not a sales problem. It's not a confidence problem. It's really an offer problem. The reason that we have trouble giving ourselves a raise is because as time goes on, the better we are at our craft, the more we tend to include. So when we start out, we're helping people very simply with, the scope of what we know. And as we get more and more experience, whether we're a health professional, a spiritual or mindset coach, a business coach, we see more. We know more on the back end, we know how to accomplish more, and we tend to pass that on to our clients. We're mission driven, we want to make a difference. But it creeps in, and over time, what happens is we are not getting credit for all of the extra things that we are now including. I want to share with you a way that you can give yourself a raise and have your clients thank you for it. It has to do with really taking a moment to organize your knowledge, taking inventory of all that you know and all that you give when you're coaching, consulting, serving a client. I'm going to give you a few examples, and I really want this to be a working meeting for us. So grab a pen, because you are going to take inventory right now on some of the things you do that you never say you do or give up front when you're selling, when you're making your offer or your invitation. And by the way, this holds true whether you're making your offer in a one-on-one consult or whether you tend to speak from stages, webinars, or online to make your invitation or offer. There are always things that we're doing that we're not mentioning up front that we then don't get credit for when we're making the offer, and yet there are a lot of work on the back end. I'll tell you some things to do, and I'm going to give you a couple of real life examples so that you can find yourself here. So the first thing you want to do is, and I like to do this with a big Post-it paper, those giant size, I think they're 2 foot by 3 foot, almost like a big overgrown sticky note that you can stick on the wall or put on an easel. And I get small sticky notes as well. And I start to write down all of the things that I include when I'm coaching or serving a client, or in your case, it might even be a patient, right? So let's take the patient side. Do you do labs? Do you have an intake? Do you have a follow-up? Is there things that your team does in between? Are you automatically shipping supplements? Are you having things formulated for people? Do you also offer education and training? Do you make referrals? Right? These would all be things that might happen in sort of a functional medicine or integrative medicine practice. Maybe you're an agency and people are hiring you to grow their marketing online. But what are all the things you do? Do you help them with their website? And just to be able to help them, you have to figure out how to say what they do, how to position themselves, what their colors are, what their logos are. Do you support them in getting photo shoots? Are you showing them a certain number of options and making a certain number of round of edits? Does all of that lead to a shopping cart and getting people's things online? And then you're coaching them and helping them with what those things are and how to position those things? And is there a social media strategy associated? And are you just putting that all under social media? Are you breaking it down into the different platforms? What's required on YouTube versus LinkedIn versus Facebook versus Twitter, and on and on? There's so much that we do that we tend to put under one little bullet. And it's not that when we're making our offer, we want to get into all the nitty gritty of the deliverable, but what we do want to do is see all this so that we can get into the nitty gritty of describing the outcome of each of these things and how every single one of these things that you provide that you may not be getting credit for is really giving the client a bigger outcome, a bigger transformation, a bigger result than the one that they think they're paying for. So this begs the question, have you flattened out in your rates because you've only had one level of service and you throw it all in? And what would happen if we took this big inventory and then we said, maybe there's different tiers of service that I offer, different tiers of coaching, different patient access tiers, fill in what you do, make this personal to you. And if we had different tiers, then we could inventory the things we include, and the lower tiers would include less, still offering great outcome, But there's some people that always want that VIP tier from the level of service, the number of things you do for them versus with them, and the access that they have. So those are 3 things to pay attention to as you're doing this exercise, right? What are the services included? We talked about that. There's probably a lot of things that have crept in over time that weren't there in the beginning. What is the amount of access that they have? You know, it's very common to have different tiers of service. I'll stay with the integrative medicine or functional medicine doctors where, you know, they're offering some kind of a service plan, and you have access through their assistant or their PA through one level of service. You might have full-on direct text access to them at a high VIP level of service. And each of these would have different price points attached. And this gets back to the original question, if you've plateaued, of how you might consider giving yourself a raise. The other thing that thinking like this does is that if you have long-standing clients, a lot of people are afraid, if I give myself a raise, what happens to those people that have been with me a long time? Well, they will then have the choice to stay at the standard base tier, which is probably what they bought from you a long time ago in the first place, or they can start to actually acknowledge and invest in those extra things that you've been kind of just throwing in all these years. But now, as of X date, let's say you pick a date 30 days from now or 3 months from now, those things are all going to be on this particular menu, and you can select the tier of service you want. Let me give you a couple of real life examples of some recent clients of mine. These are people that have coached with me, or maybe they were in my Monetize Your Mission mentorship, which I'll definitely tell you about before I finish this video, so that if you want to get this kind of help, you'll know where you can go. So the first one, he is more of an agency business. We'll call him Sam. Sam has been helping people get their podcast launched for a really long time. He's very known in his specific entrepreneurial influencer space, and since the beginning of podcasting, he's been helping people to do everything related with the production, deciding the topics, what the branding looks like, all things having to do with getting that podcast launched on different platforms. Now, Sam also has DJ skills, right? This is another thing that he does. So because he's a good guy and he wants to see his clients succeed, he's very mission driven like you and I, he would do launch parties. So when the podcast came out, he would put together a special playlist for that person. He would create the launch party on a platform. So maybe it was on Facebook or Spotify, or, you know, depending where the person's following was, YouTube, to their email list. He would orchestrate, attend the whole thing. And of course, wanting to get their numbers up, he would make introductions to help them get on other podcasts. He would help promote. He would have other people help promote. And all this was falling into the initial price point that he had when he first started, before he started piling on all these other things. So just for the sake of this example, let's say that it was $2,500 a month way back when he started, and he's still charging that when he finally came to me for some help. He said, you know, I've been at this plateau and I'm providing so much more, and I see people coming into the industry that don't have a tenth of the experience or connections that I have, and they're charging twice as much. To the point I made earlier, we got out the big sticky note and a bunch of little stickies, and we put everything we could think of. We'd both be sitting there with our Sharpies, writing it on a pen, putting it on that sticky poster on a wall. And when we saw the scope of all the things he was throwing in, number one, we both had to take a breath. He personally was shocked. He had never picked his own brain to see, what is it, and taken this inventory that I'm giving that I'm not getting credit for. None of this, like 90% of it, was not even listed in his initial offer to people. You know, whether it was on a web page or he was talking to them, he just talked about the podcast production and the $2,500 a month charge. So we decided to make 3 tiers. We called it silver, gold, and platinum. The platinum is like Sam in your pocket. It's just foundational. You're just getting started. You're getting the production, the thing he originally started with. So he outlined all the things that truly are included with the production, and there was still a lot: the colors, the branding, the editing, the getting it up on the platform, and that is enough for a lot of people starting out. In the next level package up, instead of $2,500 a month, now it was $3,500 a month, and he added everything in it plus introductions. So he would make a minimum of 3 introductions a month for you to either have a Right Fit podcast guest or be on someone else's podcast that could really help you expand your reach. So things like that got added. And then in the Sam in Your Pocket, that one was $5,000 a month. It may have gone up to more now that he realizes all the things that he's done. So you can play with this stuff until you feel like you got it right. But that one also included the launch party and ongoing ways that he now has to bring more eyeballs to your podcast and get you rated in a top ranking of podcasts. So you can see the difference between the $2,500 a month level of service and access and the $5,000 a month level of service and access. He's now getting compensated for all of that. It's being acknowledged upon the initial offering, and it's making a huge difference for his life, his family, his profit margin, his business, and the best part, for his clients, and them really valuing at what they get and picking the right level to start with. So how can you look at what you're doing, take inventory of all those things you do that you don't get credit for, and see if it might be time to add some tiers to your coaching or service offering? One more quick example before I go. There is a business coach I worked with recently. She is invited in to someone else's seminar every quarter, and this particular person, he teaches people how to do keynote speeches. So she speaks at that seminar every quarter. There's usually about 14 to 16 people, and they pay $15,000 for this 3 or 4 day seminar training. They pay the main person, the gentleman, and she comes in and she speaks. And for all the years she's been doing this once a quarter, she comes in and she will say, you've got your talk, but some of you would like to have that talk lead to a 90-day course. My specialty is helping people put together their 90-day course that they can sell online or when they speak. So she's been doing this a long time, and she's been charging $6,000 to help people put together their 90-day course over a 6-month period. And usually from the 14 people, she'd get 3 or 4. So it was really worth it to her. 3 or 4 people at $6,000 is $18,000 to $24,000. 3 or 4 new clients for 6 months, and then she'd come back the next quarter and do it again. So she hired me. I do VIP days, and just to give you an idea, it's $25,000 to come out for the day. Some people turn it into a 6-month engagement, so we've got the VIP day plus 6 months of follow-up. That's a $50,000 engagement. So she invested at that level to work with me to see how she could really take this offer to the next level, because she knew inside, probably like you do, that she was giving so much more at the end of the day than what she was representing. So we did the same exercise that I mentioned earlier that we did with Sam and that I recommended you do. We took inventory of everything she was including. As it turned out, she wasn't just helping them get their 90-day program done. She was actually helping them, in many cases, take the talk that they had created, the keynote talk, in that 3 to 4 day event that they paid $15,000 for, and she was helping them put the finishing touches, the slides, and getting it done. She was helping them to really figure out how they were going to position themselves in the market and the branding around that. And then on the heels of all that, to put their 90-day coaching program together and helping them with every detail, not just the strategy, but worksheets, deliverability, online, what platform would it go into? So when you start to break it down, there was like 5 or 6 heavy, valuable deliverables beyond just the one she was mentioning, which was to get their 90-day coaching program. Well, friends, so she didn't go back next time and pitch the $6,000 program to get your 90-day talk done. She pitched a $25,000 program to work with her for 6 months, to finish the keynote that you started, to get your branding done, to position it in the market, to create your 90-day course, and to get it up online. And guess what? People loved that. They loved knowing that there was a one-stop shop to go all the way from this seminar with their mentor where they learned to put their keynote together to literally having their branding and their online presence and their coaching course complete. She ended up with 6 out of the 14 people saying yes to a $25,000 offer, $150,000 of sales. She tripled the investment she made to coach with me. And of course, she has that now ongoingly every quarter that she's invited back to do this seminar. It gives her the room, if she wants to pay the host a nice healthy affiliate commission for having her there. And it gives her the room to really have a methodical way to walk her clients through all of these things she was already doing, instead of it just being something she was kind of tossing in unconsciously, working her tail off and feeling like, how am I doing all this for $6,000. So she went from $6,000 to $25,000. That's, wait, a 400% raise if I'm doing my math right. And so can you. So I look forward to you taking the advice. Remember, look at the outcome you want to provide. Look at all the things you're actually providing to get that done. Let's get those organized into a system. We call that your unique branded system, so that you can then articulate exactly what it is people are getting and give yourself a raise, possibly by adding tiers or by advancing the investment on the whole package. Now, if you want ongoing help with things like this and a whole lot more, please check out my Monetize Your Mission mentorship. It's a place where I jump on with entrepreneurs like you twice a month, and we work on all things offer and sales conversion related. Not only will you give yourself a raise, but you'll be able to help so many more people make a bigger impact and ultimately be able to monetize that mission that you know is yours to go much bigger in, even than you already have. You can check out a really amazing special that we have going right now at the link or the QR code that you see here. I'll see you inside.